So welcome everyone. I am going to mute here and go look through some of my old high school yearbooks while you are ably led today by Rod Carnell. Rod is the chair of the VISTE Board of Directors, and he is also the project manager and fearless leader of the virtual Virginia expansion. You've seen him a lot in your online courses this month. So Rod, take it away.
All right, well, thank you, Karen, and welcome to the first of this week's Lunch and Learns, today, July 28th. So we'll be joined today by Teresa Hayden, who is a librarian with Manassas Park Schools and has several years experience with working with Canvas, and today is going to really dig into some of the things that she's done to support the work of the library media specialist, but also cover some of the things that she's done to support that of other resource teachers in that elementary setting. So Teresa, today you're going to do a little bit of a Canvas course tour for Encore teachers is what you've been called. So tell us a little bit about what you're going to be overviewing and discussing today.
Okay, so what I'm going to be discussing today is really how I've tried to structure my course. It's been a developing thing. It's been an ongoing living thing for the last 5 or 6 years since we started using Canvas. So, but just my mindset of how I've tried to structure the course to better help my students, and especially now that we're going to be starting virtually this year, making sure it is a really user-friendly resource for my students and for any parents who might be observers of their children's courses when they're online. Since my courses are currently offline because we are tied to PowerSchool, and that's where so until we get our students into the system, I will not have access to my actual courses themselves. I'm going to take you on a tour of my Sandbox, which is where I'm trying to play around with a couple of things, and that'll play into a story in a little bit. I did want to show up the Canvas Commons for anyone who's not dug in there yet. It's a really cool place to get some neat ideas, and then some tips and tricks and things that I have learned over the last couple of years.
Great. So you did mention that Sandbox course, and
Yes.
Maybe you can just give us a little bit of, because that's a term that for many being new to learning management systems and new to a lot of this environment, that we've thrown that term around a little bit. Maybe you could help frame that out or define that a little bit better for some of the folks that aren't familiar.
Yeah. So the Sandbox course is where I like to play around with some of the play around with my buttons, play around with the page setup, and just a place to really have that no fear, because that was kind of how I introduced this topic a couple of weeks ago. Is I don't want any Encore teacher to feel overwhelmed, because it's very easy if this is brand new to go, oh no, I have to do all of this all at once, and it just feels it definitely felt overwhelming my first year. So since my courses are currently unavailable to me, I'm using my Sandbox to play around with button positioning, changing things around, and then making it something that I'm just a place to really play around with things. So it's not a live course. Parents aren't seeing it, teachers aren't seeing it, the students aren't seeing it. It's just a place to organize, figure stuff out where you want it, because then you can copy that Sandbox course over into your actual courses themselves, or you can upload it to the Commons, which I'm going to show off some of my colleagues' items in a little bit as well, just for people to see what they're doing.
Great. So that Sandbox place is a good place to start out, explore, and experiment with things as you're first getting them ready. And then if you have that piece refined, you can always move it into your live course so students can view that. Well, great. Well, let's get on with it. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so you can start sharing yours. And
figure out how to do that.
We'll be on with that course tour.
Trying to figure out where all the buttons are. No, I don't want to do that.
So
oh, there, share screen. There it is.
Green button in the center.
Yeah, I didn't make
everything
big screen.
Yes.
So, so I'll just share screen. I want to share. Where am I going? I guess I want to share that. Well, hopefully everyone can see.
There we go. Welcome to Fifth Grade Library. Awesome.
All right. So this was actually where I started creating this is one of my brand new banners, and I'll share something else in a little bit. So the funny story is how my Sandbox course came to be recently. I tip for anybody, when your IT department says, please export by a certain day, they mean it. Because if it's tied to the student information system, whatever your school division uses, if you do not export it, especially once you have everything you want, the course goes away. And I learned that the hard way. So what I had for my students this past year was my course from 18-19 or 17-18, not the one I actually wanted them to have. So I decided to make the Sandbox my place where I was going to play with banners, buttons, and play around with different things to then eventually, if I wanted to, move them over to my real course. So I'm kind of playing around with this just a little bit. I took a tip from Jen Tyndall, I think 2 weeks ago, of getting rid of all of the stuff on the side that I don't want the kids to see. So real quick, moving over to student view, which I highly recommend as people are playing around, you'll see exactly what the students should see on their end. And I test this out a lot to make sure that I have what I want. So this is currently what people can see on the side, because what I want them to do is look at the buttons. This is my course navigation. And I actually moved things around earlier today. So I didn't want the kids to have to scroll down like 3 or 4 times to get to everything. I want it to be very easy to find. I wanted anything that kids need access early on, like this is where my modules will go as I start creating those learning links to where I put the websites and things I want them to work with. And obviously the catalog, because that is the way they are going to find any and all resources. And then some of this other stuff down here is for the students if they want to look, but I also put stuff on there for the parents. Because I used to maintain a web page on the Manassas Park webpage. And then as we moved to Canvas, this is how my course, and what I also do is the buttons are the same for 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. The only thing that changes is the grade level at the top. And I did that for consistency because every Encore teacher has a Canvas course, at least with us. And then homeroom teachers have their own thing. So student dashboard is, everybody does their own type of navigation. So for me, once the kids get to me in 3rd grade, I teach them how to navigate this page, and then they are good to go from there. And as long as they stay with me all the way through to 5th grade, the buttons will never change. Or if I do change anything, I make sure it changes on all 3 pages for consistency for the kids. And it also helps me that I'm not trying to make one page look fancier than the other. It's a consistency for me across the board. And then what I also like doing in student mode is testing links to make sure that the kids can actually get to what they need to. And there is our Follett Destiny system. And then from here, I can click on my own building and do what I need to do. And that's one of the first lessons I teach the kids is know how to get to the catalog and figure all of that out. And then I can leave student view again and go back to home. So, and I want to try and, I think I'm going to change this up. I might even put like a welcome video underneath the banner just so that I can kind of explain what the page looks like. But like I said, this is a Sandbox course, so this is where I play.
So are you willing to click the edit button and show us what it looks like back there? Emily's
Sure.
asking about using tables. How do you edit the layout? So do you mind showing us the
No,
sausage?
I don't. And actually, these 2 buttons are going to be the bane of my existence because they are not centered like the other 7. And that is
oh, okay, good, good.
So
cool.
I have no problem showing the back end. This is what the back end looks like. I am using a table, and
Okay.
I do have, so yeah, I am not a huge fan of those 3 are perfectly centered. I love it. And then I come down here and that button's on the left. And I'm trying to, it's on my list of things to figure out how do I make that work. I can't.
Interesting. Yeah.
And when I move it, it goes away, and I can fix that
Okay,
later.
Ron,
Again,
we're gonna have to push her off this now, or she's gonna you're working on your page. This is great though, Emily. I think that's what you wanted to see, right? Just you click that edit button, and then there's a rich text editor in there. But I liked Emily's wording. Do you have to use tables? Like I heard that. I think Emily, the
no,
emphasis
and
there.
that
I don't know.
No, that actually came up in, I forget if it was a tweet I was following, or if it was, I'm also part of the Canvas for Librarians Facebook group. There's been a lot of really good conversations because a lot of people are heading to Canvas, and some people are already there and are really familiar. Some people aren't. And someone said tables are really hard for, I guess, the alternate text editors that are reading things out loud. The tables make it harder to read.
Okay.
So I was even, I even wanted to do some research.
Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to do some research on that to see if there was a way for me to do my buttons and my navigation without using a table. I haven't.
And when I saw Emily's question, I ran out and did a quick Google search, of course, because let me Google that for you. And the web page I got to said you can use spaces between them, but the table's the thing that's gonna help you with a little bit more.
Yeah.
The minute you change the space, you're in trouble, kind of thing. So anyway, well, thank you that was great. And Visty Zoom, by the way, is Tim Stalmer, our board member and buddy. And yeah, a little HTML goes a long way. I'm kind of glad I learned what I learned all those years ago, but we all need a little coding as well.
Mm-hmm. And then also up here, you can add in links, whether it's links within your course or external ones, which is how I added the link to Destiny on the page that I created for that. You can add images, you can do media. There's all sorts of, and they've changed some of the setup since I added things the last time I was playing with this. So I'm relearning the navigation. It's kind of like when Microsoft Outlook updates and they change all the buttons and move things around. And you have to relearn where everything goes. And I think, can I move this? There we go. I'm just going to cancel because I don't want to save.
Well, thank you very much for doing that. I think
that is not a problem
to see it. So
absolutely.
Yeah, good. And Emily, maybe post your question about tables too in the Canvas community and see if people have, or in the course, see if people have come up with any things. But yeah, the tables were the revelation with HTML when you could sort of suddenly lay things out on a page. Mm-hmm. So thank you very much. I will mute now and let you get back to your regularly scheduled program.
No, that's not a problem. The other thing that I also, how to hide all these things is coming down to settings. And this is going to look very different than what my actual courses are going to look like. I started adding images to all my courses. So for my third graders, it's currently Jellyfish. Fourth grade, it's the tower of books from the Peterson House across from Ford's Theater. I stood at the top of the thing and I looked down. And then fifth grade is Library of Congress, because that is my favorite place to be. I love going over there. So when I tell the kids, if they can see a particular image, then they know they have found my course. And so all of this information is going to look very different once you're actually in with your own system. It's not going to say manually created. I think it'll be school system created or something like that, depending on how the IT department is setting this up. The start and end dates will already be imported. So when school starts on September 8th, which it will for me, my course will say it will be officially available to students on the 8th. And then end will be whatever our last day of school actually is. And then there's visibility and all of this stuff. But sections is where all of the actual classes themselves will be listed. So I think I will have 12 fifth grade homerooms this upcoming school year. So I will have 12 different sections, one for each class, but they will all share the same information. I'm not piecing things out, so only one class gets what I'm doing and the other class doesn't. They all get everything regardless. If I want to play with the navigation, this is where I can drag stuff. And if I decide I want chat to be back up here, I can move it. And then if I want to keep it, making sure to hit the save button. I have been very guilty of not remembering the save button. This is not Google Drive. It will not automatically save your work. So, but once I hit save, that should show up, and then I can move this again. Oh, nope. Now I need to go back to home. And then I can test to make sure that that button is now visible for my students. And now the chat button is visible. And if I decide I don't want that anymore, I go back into settings and I can change that. And there's something else in settings that I thought was very interesting. The apps, we do have certain apps that are already pre-installed by the IT department. And so these are the ones that we currently use. Google is integrated with us, Learn 360. Uzella was a new one that came in this past year that I'd like to, since it is nonfiction, that is in my wheelhouse, I would like to play with that a little more for lessons for my students. And then you can see everything that is compatible with Canvas. And I think that would be a decision for the IT department of whether those apps are okay. Can you just add them for you, or is it going to be across the grade level? The other thing I forgot earlier is how we rolled out Canvas in Manassas Park, because we started from the top down. Our high school students started first, and we did get Canvas at the elementary camp on the elementary side, but we had laptop carts for the first couple of years. So we had Canvas, but it wasn't as, at least for us at the elementary side, it wasn't that robust because we only had so many laptops, and the laptops had to move around the buildings. So you had to sign up carts, and some days you were lucky enough to get them, some days you weren't. So my original Canvas courses were not as exciting, or the buttons that I've been creating now wasn't as robust as I would have liked, because I was never guaranteed to have technology in the library on that particular day. And so we slowly rolled out, and our K1 students finally got their devices this past fall. So we are fully one-to-one. And so I know my building, we definitely use Canvas a lot. I think Canvas for the lower kids was more for parent information for the teachers, but I can't speak much to that. But I know that I'm working with my counterpart down at the K2 building, and I'm going to be working with her very closely to help us take our curriculum, line it up so the kids have the progression going all the way up K5. And then the middle school and high school libraries have one page for the whole school. So that's another thing that's very different. I maintain 3 separate pages, one for each grade level. Secondary, they have one page for them, and all the students access the content from that one page. I've kind of asked if I could go to just one page for my building, but then I also saw a comment online recently of how do you keep the 3rd graders out of the 5th grade material? Not that there's anything bad, but it's like, you really don't want to get to bibliographies just yet 3rd grade. You want to like slowly progress into certain subjects. And at least that's how I have looked at it in the past. And what's also nice, I guess one nice thing about having multiple courses is when I'm in my dashboard, these are the currently published courses. These are all ones that we have access to all year long. They have no due dates. They're not tied to student records. And once my courses are back, they will show up in the published courses. And when I scroll down, there's my Sandbox course, and it's unpublished because I'm still kind of playing with it. And then you can also do courses this way, which is also nice. You can just do a quick drag and drop. You're not trying to scroll through and find everything. But I did want to take you over to the Canvas Commons, because that is where I got some of my original ideas for my layouts of my course.
So Teresa, before
Yes.
you move on, you had talked about managing the courses per grade level and kind
Yes.
of, thinking through that. And I saw where you had the opportunity there in your Sandbox to add different sections, which I guess would be each of the different classrooms or
Yes.
classes within that grade level. Do you feel like there are advantages or disadvantages for you in terms of managing the content on your site and managing the different sections? What are the kind of some of the pros and cons about setting up a course in that fashion?
I think the pros in a way, and I really thought about this because I was pretty adamant I was going to be talking to my IT department about giving me one course that all the students can go to the same thing, because I really don't. I mean, certain projects are different for each grade level, but I really, a lot of the stuff is catalog, the links, everything, all 740 of my students will access on a daily basis. But when I look at how have everything organized, in some ways there are some pros to having 3 separate courses for each grade level, that each grade level has their own content. They're not worrying about possibly accidentally clicking on the wrong button and getting into somebody else's stuff. And I think the cons for me are, if I do change anything, at least homepage wise, I have to update it all 3 pages, because I've made that promise to myself that there will be consistency, because some students, and I guess I'll kind of throw that out there because my son has autism. Like, I'm pretty sure, I know he likes consistency across things, and he would be a 3rd grader at my building if he were to come join me. And I would think that for him, knowing that everything's the same across every single page as he gets older, he's like, oh, I know where this is. And he could take off on whatever he needs to do in library class. Yeah. So the cons are making sure you keep up to date, and you have to constantly be on Canvas to make sure you're updating everything, adding the new content. Because I've also been very guilty of, I swore I put that in there. Oh, but I didn't hit save. Oh, so I got to go back, re-put it in, save the page. Okay, now you can access it. Or putting in a Screencastify video that I did not unlock properly. And that was a big hang up with my 4th grade Virginia Studies project I did. I was getting emails in my inbox from Canvas of, the student wants access. The student wants access. And it was 25 kids between 2 classes. They were like, I can't get to this. And I went, okay. So clearly I'm still learning, and there's still things to play around with. But so I think there's pros to having each individual grade level having their own, because it's also the same for art, PE, instrumental music, tech lab. We all maintain 3 pages.
Right, for the students, for each grade level. Because the question came in is, so in the role of an ITRT, which similar, you're mainly focused on supporting the classroom teachers by working directly with their students. ITRTs, or instructional technology coaches, are supporting teachers in different ways as far as like the professional learning. So I guess that's setting up one course and having multiple modules in that, or setting up separate courses for each topic. And I guess it really comes down to which is more streamlined for you to manage the content or the people in multiple courses. And then also, I guess, your consideration that was for the students to have some continuity or consistency among the teachers, where they were set up in similar ways. So I guess that would be a decision that team of teachers would kind of have to make and move in that direction together. So I guess for an ITRT, if your audience is teachers, then all of your teachers would be in a course, and you could set up the modules for them to work through. But as you had shown, to set up the different sections, groups, then you could assign to a specific section or make things available to a certain section as it was appropriate. So I think that's kind of one of those things where you have to kind of think through both the management of it from the instructor side, but also think through the participant's perspective and how easy or difficult it's going to be to get to all the pieces that they need to get to.
Yeah, and I actually forgot something in settings earlier that I actually did once we were told by the governor that we were going to be out of school for the rest of the year. What I started to do was so when you're over here on the right, you can see current users. This is where you would see how many students are in your actual course total, how many teachers. If you have anybody who's observing, that's where parents can log in to access that. I started making all of my homeroom teachers observers of the grade level course.
Right.
So that way, if I made any announcements, they would see them. If I added anything, they would be able to see exactly what their students are seeing. And I did that to hope, because we had a lot of online. Follett did Lightbox unlimited titles up through the end of June. We had a lot of things that were coming out very quickly, which I tried to share with my staff and my students. So that was a great way of just getting information out to them pretty quickly. The announcements pop up really, really well. And it was nice knowing that parents were checking, and I was actually getting emails while we were during this period of closure of, hey, how does my child access this? Or, hey, Mrs. Hayden, I can't get to your thing. How do I get that? Can you actually, one student emailed me to re-add me to his course because he was using his sister's device at the time. And my Canvas course was not, he couldn't get to it. So I had to go in, put his email in, and send him a course invite, which he accepted. And then I started getting information from him. The other thing I'm learning is also from my Facebook group. If you have Canvas on your smartphone, checking that you can access the content from your phone. I've kind of playing around. I have the student edition on my phone, and I just downloaded the teacher side so I can start seeing my courses from that side. Because if my students only have a phone about this size, are they able to read everything? Can they see it? Is it easily accessible? And that's something else that came up of the accessibility. So like the adaptability readers, but also making sure that the content can be seen. Because all this really nice stuff I have on my homepage, you cannot see on the phone version. All you can see is what's available from the side view. So fun little thing. One of the fun things I've learned as I was preparing for this of getting into the Canvas on the app and not just on the desktop version that I'm currently using.
Yeah, so having somebody to, or yourself, that student version, so you could take a look to see what it looks like. You mentioned that with Student View earlier as you're publishing in your Sandbox and you're looking through it to see what it looks like for the students. Is it available? Is it not available? That kind of thing. And then as well as, I guess, beneficial to have that on your phone, because there are quite a few people that will also be accessing it that way, just to take a look to see, what they're dealing with, because that might be where you get questions, and being able to see what that student is seeing is beneficial, because that way you can help them out. And I'm sorry I interrupted you, or you're on your way to the Commons to look for all kinds of great stuff. But
no. So the Commons is where people can upload things they've created. So there is 121,000-ish results. So there's a lot of stuff out there. It's for graduate level, undergraduate, pretty much anything you want. And this is where, if you saw earlier under my unpublished, there was a library template next to my Sandbox. And that was one of the original templates I downloaded just to kind of look at it for an idea of how I might want to structure my own course. Because I really like the buttons and the structure, but I needed to change the pictures. And so that's kind of why the Sandbox came to be, so I could leave the template on its own without messing with it, but then create my own ideas. So you can search, if you're doing Romeo and Juliet or doing that as a library research project, you can type that in. I did Manassas Park earlier just to see what was going to come up. And these are a lot of my elementary colleagues have been putting a lot of stuff up here. So, and one of the music teachers has actually put a couple lessons on here. Where is that? Kelly Bircher over here, the listening lesson for middle school. So she's a encore teacher like I am, and she's put stuff up. And I've got a really nice Virginia Studies lesson that I would love to put in the Commons for. I called it a Virginia Hall of Fame wax museum, where the kids had to research a famous Virginian and then come up with a letter to the board of directors saying, hey, this person needs to be the first person in, and here's why. And I had a really good idea for that I would love to throw that up in the Commons someday if any other librarian is looking for so how do we get the kids to kind of summarize their Virginia studies time in 4th grade? Oh, there's a great lesson plan already there. There's assignments and quizzes, whole modules that you can just, if it's something that fits what you're doing as an encore teacher or as a homeroom teacher, you can download it. And for fun earlier, I decided to go down to the most downloaded. And one of my 4th grade teachers she did a homeroom class template, which has been downloaded 659 times. So a lot of people really like her idea. So I don't have anything in here yet.
So you had mentioned So you had mentioned downloaded one of the courses as a template to see how it was built, and so you could explore that.
Yeah.
There are other pieces here, a quiz, a module, an individual page are on screen now. And that's another value, I think, of the Sandbox. If you're going to to bring those elements in, to bring those into your Sandbox to see what that looks like and how it works. And then once you have made any adjustments or find that it's going to fit your need, then you can move that over into the course that you're teaching live, or the one that students will have access to kind of make sure that for one, to keep your live course as clean as possible, so there's not a lot of things that you're shuffling around or having to delete out of there or not publish, and keep that straight. But also just that Sandbox arena, so you could bring that in and maybe adjust it a little bit for your grade level, or bring that in and change some of the features or the way that it's set up, so that you can then put it into your course. And instead of starting from scratch, that's the value, I guess, of going to the Commons and finding some of these elements.
Yeah, because that was the part that I definitely initially just felt very overwhelmed. We were told, all right, Canvas, go. And I went, I don't know what I'm doing with this. So the Commons gave me a great place to just explore options, look at what others had done. Because if people are willing to share, why recreate the wheel? Just take it down and move it over. And then I think the guides is also, all the helpful guides. I'll probably be going here for how to unlock a Screencastify video. So if it's the introduction to a project, the students can actually get to the video, because that's something that I thought I had done, and apparently not. But the Canvas guides are also a great resource of just tips and tricks and step-by-step, how do you get from here to here. And I started using these a lot in the last year or so. I would come over here for help, because Canvas does a great job of explaining what they're doing.
And those Canvas guides are intuitive in that wherever you're at in your Canvas course, whatever page that you're on or section that you're in, the help guides that come out from there are related to that page. And that can get, some people have, maybe inadvertently turned it on. That can be turned on or off in the settings as well. So if you're just setting it up, and then be another one to have that available, particularly in your Sandbox course, as working through that, to have those guides available to help you figure things out and navigate through and answer some of those questions. So the frequently asked questions are on those guides. Specific questions, you may have to dig a little deeper or go out to that community, which I think Karen posted a link to that community in the chat earlier. But that community is also a good place to search to see if other people have struggled with some of the same things and that sort of thing. So, okay. Yeah. So what else do you have for us?
So, the last little thing is, I also really like going to just the calendar feature, because in each of my courses, when I make an announcement or I make an assignment, the assignment goes automatically into my calendar. And right now I don't have access to my library 3, 4, and 5 classes. But if I had items on my calendar that I want to show, I can click them all, and I can click on my counterpart at the middle school. And if she has already started putting things in her course, which does not look like she has, because Monday is our official start date. So that would be a nice big welcome back button. But if I had already put something in the Sandbox, which maybe I can test that so people can see what the calendar feature. Actually, go back to calendar. Whoops. So go back to calendar. I'm going to add, sorry, move that out of the way. First day of work. I am going to change the date. It's going to be an all-day thing. And I'm going to add it to my Sandbox. And I will hit submit. So then when I go back to, I'm thinking it should show up in my calendar. I can view calendar. I'm still in July. There it is.
There we go.
And there's my, so the other fun thing about the calendar feature is that if you put something in there and you say it's a due date and the due date maybe happens while you're closed, you might get emails from people saying, how do I take care of this? And I still had my due date of the books coming back for the end of the year on all of my courses. And I got a lot of emails from my students going, how do we get these back? Like, and we're still taking care of that, but that's the least of my concerns. As long as the books are safe at home, I am perfectly happy. I am not worrying about it. But we did have I did a lot of kids go, but the due date's still up there, and I meant to take that off my calendar, and I had forgotten to do that. So that's something else. I'll check the calendar once in a while just to see what's going on. And in my own building Canvas page, my principal does a very good job of putting in all of our meetings and everything. So I can, once everything's uploaded for the year, I can click on every calendar and all of the dates will show up, and everything's color coded by course. So whatever color you picked for your box or whatever, I don't know what the technical term is for that, but everything will be color coded by your course. So you can pretty much have a wide view of the month, of expectations, what's coming up, what do you need to do, whether it's building level. And then if you are included in, the specialists like me are included in a homeroom teachers course, we can then see their calendar and their due dates and their assignments, and we can tag team and work on a couple of things. So I like using the calendar too. And then just a fun thing for Canvas, I don't know if anybody else is going to be doing this in the future. We went to ePortfolios back in 2017. So I do have my ePortfolio built into my account, and that is where I upload everything for when it's my formal evaluation year, which I just finished this past year. That was where I was putting all of my documents and things and sharing my Canvas course with my administration so they can see what I'm doing and see that I'm staying on top of everything. So I don't know if anybody else is doing that, if that's just a feature that some people are using, some people aren't. But we went from paper portfolios to Google Drive to using it within Canvas itself. And since a lot of our stuff is on Canvas, it's just easy to slide it into the portfolio because it's already right there in, excuse me, in your course.
Yeah, the ePortfolio. So you were using that as your professional portfolio as part of your goal setting evaluation process. Mm-hmm. I think there's probably also many people who will, as school divisions get up and running with Canvas and start to discover those potential aspects of it that that may tie into many school divisions and students satisfying the Virginia profile of a graduate. That may be a way to gather the evidence necessary for that as well through Canvas. So that's but I hadn't really considered that as part of teachers using that as their professional portfolio and pulling it all together, because this is where you're doing a lot of your work and posting a lot of the examples of things you're doing with students in class and that sort of thing. So that would be an easy way to connect those from your Canvas, your Canvas instance to that ePortfolio.
Yeah, I have to give my my IT RTs a lot of credit, especially Patty Gillum is our instructional technology specialist in Manassas Park, and she did a really good job of getting us on board and teaching us how to use the portfolio piece. So when that piece came online, I was one of the second group of educators in Manassas Park to use the ePortfolio feature of Canvas, and it was a learning curve. But once it was done, all I have to do is just change the year of my formal evaluation, and then just change a couple of things here and there, and the portfolio can pretty much be ready. It took me almost all year the first year I did it, but we were building it from scratch. We were building it from the ground up. Now I just have to change the year, change a couple of papers or a couple of documents, and my professional ePortfolio is ready to go. So I think they might be using it at the high school for portfolio gathering for the profile of a graduate. That might be where they're heading. So can't really speak to that, but the ePortfolio is really nice, and kind of wish we'd had that a long time ago. Like back when I was in high school, that would have been really nice.
Right. Yeah. Well, there'll be a lot of teachers, well, many who are just getting started with Canvas, but to know that that's there as they move through the year to easily move some of the things, because they're going to be working really hard to create courses and bring in content and, enhance those courses in a lot of ways like you have shown. And so being able to tie that directly to their goals and their evaluations in that portfolio process certainly will be a benefit, because I know that teachers will spend a lot of time in this interface and utilizing the tools within Canvas. So, okay, great. Was there, I'm kind of forgot the list. Did we get down through everything on your list today, or was there anything you needed to show us?
Yeah, just the advice I have gotten, or the things that I picked up over the years. Like I said, when the IT department, if you are tied to your student information system, they say export by this date, do it. Do it early if you have to, but definitely do it. And if you have access to a Sandbox course, I would definitely put one together and just download a template and mess with it, because the Sandbox is not the public course unless you choose to make that your eventual homepage. You can do pretty much whatever you want in there. And I am really trying to experiment. And now that we are starting virtually, I want to make my library page an access point that the students want to access, they want to come to. Not that the other teachers we can't work together, we can't share resources, but I want my page to be a page where they want to come, they want to access the catalog, they want to see what I'm doing. Because if I can't do actual physical book checkouts, what I can do, coming back over to that Sandbox course, is I had a button that said Mrs. Hayden recommends, and that was where I had started to put in last year videos of me recommending books to kids, and even just a running list of here's the books I've been reading this year. So if you liked this book, here's 3 others that are similar. And if the kids can get access to the public library, great. If not, they've got an e-reader at home, Amazon tablet or whatever, they can do that. And then how-to videos, which is where I started putting how to access the catalog, how to just do a basic search, things that the kids will need to know, and even just how to do a simple kid-friendly safe search, since they cannot use Open Google. I don't know if that's the same everywhere else, but in Manassas Park, we are a hard no Open Google. You must use a kid-friendly search engine. So how to navigate those and then sift through what's good and what's not so good, because that's a skill that definitely I start working on early. And I put in all sorts of fun little videos, because I don't know about anybody else, but hearing my own voice come back at me on a video is something I am not a fan of, but I am learning to embrace that and embrace the change, because this is the future of education at the moment.
So yeah, that's something that everybody goes through that process as they start recording audio or video, just kind of acclimating to that, and no one else seems to mind the difference, but everybody hears their own voice differently. So, so trying to go back through the chat here to see if there are other questions. Did you, and I don't, if you went over how you got the books there on the homepage. So yeah, I think you did open up the edit, and that's just
actually
created.
So I really should have gone back and looked for these. My Patty Gill, my ITS was sharing with us different places to make buttons and things, and where I made the banner and all of these was in Canva. But these are my original banners.
Yeah, I'm a huge Canva fan.
Yeah.
And I just got an education account, so I'm very excited that I can do more things. I'm very excited. But these are my original banners I made for each of my courses. And then I decided it's time for a change, which is where you can ignore the Bitmoji one. I was playing around with the different banners, but this was a new one I was kind of playing around with. But these are my original my new banners that I created for all of my courses. And then my buttons, come back down to all of my designs. And those are all of my buttons that I made, and I made it in one file. So I made something just a little bit different from what I originally had, because Canva's pretty crafty. And now I'm trying to think, I'm seeing a lot of people with new designs on their buttons, and they're inspiring me to try to change things up. And this is a great time to change it up, since I don't have access to my actual courses yet. I can play around with if I like how my homepage looks, if I want it to be different. And how do I make it engaging for the students? I think that's the biggest thing, is them wanting to come to the page, because it's not confusing, it's not cluttered. But this is where I've started creating a lot more things. So Canva is absolutely wonderful. I love it. I'm trying to think what else to say about it.
Yeah, Canva's a really good tool for creating those kinds of buttons or badges and that sort of thing. And then it's also, there's other people that I've seen that have done that in Google Draw, but that same kind of process of finding that image, layering the text or changing the colors and that kind of thing, especially for elementary to make those more robust.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, so, and I'm looking at the chat. Are there any other questions? You can drop those in the chat for Teresa as we're finishing up here, I guess.
I think it was maybe to everybody in the chat, but somebody asked about the peer review, Neely. Did we get to that? Did I miss it? She asked if anyone has used the peer review in Canvas.
I personally haven't, so I can't speak to that.
Right.
Well, I think the peer review in terms of, and just in terms of like an assignment, there's an option for checking peer review, and then that way it'll assign it to another student to look over that. So it's like that final check of, you could do it that way, if, to check spelling, check grammar kind of thing. You also have that so that you could set it up for student feedback, so they can, help students maybe move through the rubric and decide, if they had fulfilled each item or that kind of thing. And then just for, positive peer review on just, things that they really like about the project, or some of those kind of guiding questions, formative questions I learned a lot about, but I would like to know more about, that kind of thing. So you can set that up so it moves through that peer review process before the student actually submits it. So that way it does catch some of those opportunities of, catching some errors or that kind of thing. And then it also allows students to see each other's work through that process, which, is just another way to help them enhance their projects or see what other people are doing, get ideas from one another, that sort of thing. Yes, and that increase of student-to-student interaction, that's really what that peer review is about. I think Neely put into the chat. So did we cover that one?
Yes, thank you. And I think that was...
I didn't
I
see
love
any others in the
Pam's
chat that we hadn't
of
gotten to.
Yeah, I love Pam's idea of linking to the reading of a chapter. And Tim Sommer is in the room, and he helped us with the Misty website a few years ago. And it's kind of a simple idea. If you have new content, people are going to come back. And so the kids are going to have to check Canvas for assignments and things. But if they know when they go to your website, there's a new story or there's something in the news about things or videos of you, the kids certainly like these. What we know so far is they like to hear your voice and they like to see your face. So, Teresa, get over your voice, my friend, when you look in the mirror and you think, where's that 25-year-old that I used to be, right? That was the biggest hurdle for me, was watching my face and thinking, who's this old lady in that camera? And you just got to go for it, man. Rebecca said, embrace it. But they do like that. But yeah, if there's something new there, and it doesn't have to be a lot, but just something fun, or I think I think you're taking a good approach with that. And I know I've been following the Bitmoji classroom wars on Twitter now.
Yes.
That they were cute and everybody loved them, and now we're starting to decide that we hate them. And I will say accessibility is certainly an issue, and Katie Fielding had some suggestions about that. But I think that, cute's not a terrible thing in these days, right? If kids are coming in and they see, but your picture might be better than your Bitmoji. I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, I think your idea about content's a great one.
Yeah, and then I put down here the Meet Your Librarian. So I update the biography every year, which I can click on that now. And this is, so it's for the parents, but it's also for the kids, especially if they're also brand new to Manassas Park. They get to see me. And I'm very proud of this picture. I had just run the Richmond Half Marathon, and I got to meet Cece Bell on the same day. So that was,
oh my gosh.
I drove all the way over to see her after I was done. And
cool.
she was, and
awesome.
I was back when El Defo came out. So that was, so that's 2017. So that's, gosh, 3 years ago. Wow. It's been a while. And then I just tell the kids who I am, where I went to school.
And you're smart to recognize that parents are going to be seeing these, unlike when they only come to your class during open school night or a school visit or something. Yeah, your classroom is now pretty much open to your parents. So you went to Kutztown. Are you from up in that area? I'm
originally from Allentown.
County.
Yep,
cool. Yeah, there you go.
Yep. Originally from Allentown. And Bachelor's of Science in Education. I actually went to school to be a school librarian, so I am truly a teacher librarian, which I know Canada loves that term, but I'm one of the, I don't think my program exists as it used to anymore, so we're kind of blending with the instructional technology part of Education College. And then I got my master's from South Carolina many years later, but that was very well worth it, because everything I took, I dumped right back into what I do with my students, and then what I learned from using Blackboard as a graduate student has helped me learn what not to do over here on Canvas. I did like Blackboard, but Blackboard's a very different animal from a student side of things. Now that I'm on a teacher side, it's kind of a interesting thing of, so how does this work and how do you play with this?
Well, yeah, you
haven't
mentioned
used Blackboard for, I'm sorry, I hadn't used Blackboard for many years, and I'm committed to using it this fall for a graduate course that I'm teaching. So guess what I'm doing? Anyway, Rod, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, you had mentioned about, those things not to do, and really those are really valuable lessons to share with other people, and kind of, I guess, in a humorous way perhaps, but figuring out what not to do, that leads me back to, you're showing us this sandbox, and many school divisions will set it up so teachers can create a course, and they could create their own sandbox. If that's not an option within your division, asking for that sandbox if it's not provided.
We had a different Brooks. L. Brooks. I said it in, we both said it in our replies to you.
Okay.
So asking for that sandbox course so you can work through that is highly valuable, so that you can figure out some of those things before you take them live. You can import a lot of the content that's available through Commons and use it as it is, because much of it is well developed, but then also customize it for your need and for the needs of your students as you move into the school year, because there's a lot to be done, and so starting from scratch always isn't the best idea or the easiest way to go about it. But as you see more of these courses and you see some of the content that others are creating, certainly we encourage the trainers that are in this course to encourage teachers to begin adding in that content, using some of their skills that they'll develop to create those pages or those quizzes or those kinds of things, and then share them back into that commons area so that other people within your school district, you can share it to your school district, you can share it to a broader audience, and certainly the professional learning network that Visti is establishing would be interested in seeing the content that's being generated by teachers that are using Canvas in new and creative ways and innovating for themselves in their classroom. So we appreciate it when what you've shared with us today, Teresa, and the knowledge and experience you've gained from working through this course site and Canvas, and then also just your approach to how library media specialists, librarians, art, music, PE, other teachers that are not the traditional classroom teacher or have multiple groups of students that they're supporting, can utilize the tools to help manage the course content as well as manage the users. So we appreciate your time today.
Absolutely.
Anything else, Karen, as we're closing?
I think we are good. I do think we want to follow up about that e-portfolio and see if that's something that could get put in the Commons. Maybe you've already done that, but I suspect there's school divisions that would be interested in that as well. So thank you, Teresa, very much.
Oh.
Thanks, Rod, as always. Thanks, Tim Stalmer, for your yeoman work in getting us streaming today.
Yes, it takes a village, I guess, is the phrase we're looking for to put one of these on. So yes, thank you for all of your help, those of you, and thank you for contributing to the chat, those that have put questions in there. Thank you for attending, and we look forward to our final 2 Lunch and Learns tomorrow and again on Thursday. We hope you'll join us for those. These are being recorded. They are going to be hosted eventually at the Visti YouTube page, but we'll send out links through the course and get this information out there so we can take advantage of all the expertise that's being shared. Thank you again for joining us today, and we will see you again soon.
Have a great afternoon.